Hey friends, Doug here from 2 Plus Tough. Good morning, and I want to start off by saying, look a little rough because I wasn't feeling too well yesterday, but I got a good night's sleep and had a nice little breakfast with Jess, and we're all good to go. So anyway, if you're new to the channel, this whole week is a little bit different. Essentially, we picked up a copy of Silver Tower, which is the first Warhammer Quest game set in Age of Sigmar. And I've been building and painting that because I want to practice doing live games with folks playing online so that when Warhammer Quest Cursed City comes out soon, hopefully, we'll be able to do that as well. So, without further ado, let's go down to the downward cam here and let me get my chat so where I can see it. And these have been super informal. Just if you have something you want to chat about, throw it out there. Otherwise, next to me, I actually have a copy of a White Dwarf magazine that I can pull, some conversation material from. Let's see where we left off. So, when we left off last, I had just had a few little details to do on this knight here. This is the Knight Questor, and I went ahead and finished those up, so I'm calling him Dunzo. Then I pulled out the Mistweaver Sai, which is a incredible model. That Games Workshop just kind of let go rules wise. And then we have, is it 2, 4, 6, 8 other models that Games Workshop let go that people loved. And these are like little goblin scuttling dudes, mutant goblins. So yeah, very cool stuff. As you can see, painted my nails last night, basically. So here's my explanation for this, okay? We saw some people on YouTube doing this cool stamping nail art, and so what I wanted to try was for models that have banners, like big, standard bearers kind of a thing. If I were to do like color blending on the banner and then take this stamp tool that's used for nail polish and then stamp it on there, could I make really intricate designs? Because some of the templates that are on these things are incredible that I think would look super cool. Some of them have like retro 80s shapes, that kind of stuff could really be neat. And so my wife and I, got some wine last night. We're just chilling and doing weird stuff to our nails. Got a whole bunch of weird little color combinations. It was a fun time. So let me grab. Let's see. Thunderhawk Blue. Let's see. In the chat here, we've got. Is it Junius? I'm just getting my painting stuff ready so I can paint along. Well, you're more than welcome to, buddy. Yeah, dude. Bust it out. Got a painting date tonight for my wife's birthday. Since we can't really go anywhere, I'll be working on my Dread pageant, and I think she'll be doing some Daughters of Cain. Nice. Nice. Let's throw some highlights. I want to finish up these little grot guys because, quite frankly, I don't really care for the models. I know some people love them, but I just never been a goblin guy. I'll be honest with you. Even when the new stuff came out, like I love the look of it. I love the squigs. That's about all that I like, to be honest, from their range. But it didn't grip me enough for a full army, To each their own. I will say though, when you see a fully and well painted Gloomspite Gitz army, without fail, no matter how they decided to color it, no matter how many shortcuts they decided to take, in terms of like contrast paint versus traditional paints, that kind of stuff, or how many layers there are, it just always looks fantastic. I think we can all agree. Let's see. A good excuse to not do math homework. That is the tagline of the channel. So yeah. Looking for an excuse to make poor decisions? Doug at 2 Plus Tough has your back. Alright, and see. Looking to finish up Glutos' Palanquin. I actually just yesterday, because I wasn't feeling camera ready, because I also had migraine, but I was able enough to do some notes for videos, like for next week. And so I did the lore notes on Glutos, and I like him. I like him a lot. Not necessarily, I don't think, enough to get me to play Slaanesh. But if I was ever going to, it would be a mortal army with Glutos at the 4. Although I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I'm fickle when it comes to swaying between the different Chaos Gods. Right now I'm actually staring down the barrel of a Tzeentch list that I really want to own, just focusing on Zangor. Let me turn this down just a smidge. Let me know if the music gets a bit too loud, just because it varies the balancing from song to song. Adrian Kirsch, hey buddy, painting my marble Crisis Protocol. Nice. Yeah, I think I mentioned in the stream the other day that some buddies were trying to get me into that, and it might be working. I don't know. I thought no one here locally played, and so I was like, oh, okay, that's a pretty good indicator that maybe I don't need to play this game as well if there's no one to play with or against. And then when I showed up to Star Wars Legion night, there was a bunch of guys like, oh yeah, we started this whole group for it, and here's an invite, and that kind of stuff, and it's just like, oh man. I've been told it's a wonderful, so basically the only thing that holds me up when it comes to Marvel, oh man, there's a lot of paint. The only thing that holds me up when it comes to Marvel Crisis Protocol is everyone's a named character and everyone's like a super jacked hero, whereas I like to play a lot of non-named heroes and kind of create my own stories. But the way it was explained to me is that's... I had a great conversation where someone kind of pushed back on that idea. And they're like, well, it's not, narrative play is not just about you creating your own stories. Of course, I knew that. But, because a lot of narrative play for AOS is historical battles and that kind of stuff. He's like, but in this context, it's, do the individual units, so in Marvel's case, the heroes, do they do what you expect them to do, based on the character they're trying to represent? How well do they translate that comic book hero to the tabletop on an individual level, not necessarily, on a game level. And, they were kind of walking through some of the rules with me. I was like, this does sound cool, actually. It's really fun and not as in-depth as AOS. Yeah, I could see that as being a boon. I got until Tuesday to finish my math homework. I'm not super concerned. Considered a Slaanesh warband to combat my Khorne army. The Painbringer tempts me the most. Painbringer. Which one's that? Painbringer. Is that the hero that came out with the Shadow and Pain or whatever it was set? That guy's my fave. And we're just putting on a thin little highlight for some skin. I just did orc skin contrast on the Gabo skin. There's honestly, because he's 90% robe, you can't see a whole lot of it anyway, but this is just to kind of get rid of some of the splotches and make the green just a little bolder in some areas. Not going too crazy on him. I did find the rules for the Excelsior War Priest to be pretty cool. I know he's a Legends character, but you're talking to a guy who doesn't care. I'll play Legends units. Alright. I'm satisfied with him. That's the Lord of Gains. Painbringers are the Slaanesh Elite Melee. Oh, that's right. The 5-man units. Got it. Yeah, I've been... I will say, those are my favorite models of the ones that got released for Slaanesh, for sure. I just like their, I don't know, just their stance, their poses, everything. Their armor is amazing looking. Looks all clean and perfect. Oh, man. I'm selling myself on this army with not even really looking at it. Let's see. Does anyone know if it would be bad to start at 5th level for me and my first D&D adventure? Nope, that's where I started. I mean, I've only, granted, played one game of D&D, but we started at level 5. I just got a pre-made character offline for a... what was I? I think I was like a priest dwarf type thing. Cleric dwarf, that's what it was. Well, yeah. And I would say that's probably best to start a little bit. That way, you know, you get a little jump start onto some abilities and stuff. That's kind of my reckoning. But you know, the great thing about D&D is that you can do whatever you want. That's the kind of the whole point. As long as your GM gives you permission, go nuts. If you are the GM, give yourself whatever the hell permission you want. Let's see. Got some Zangor sitting around back home. Got to finish my Khorne. Oh yeah. Yeah. You got a laundry list of stuff to paint. No, events have started reaching out to me, and the world's kind of on the cusp of reawakening a bit here, or at least major events that need to plan out months ahead are kind of getting back into the swing of it, and so I want to have me an army that is fit for a tournamente. And my preferred playstyle is rush forward with bodies, pin the enemy down, and then play the objectives. And I was going through a few different lists with the Rerolling 1 guys who are always patient enough to put up with me whenever I'm like, I need a new army, what should I do? Because they're saints, and yeah, I don't know. I went back and forth. I was asking their opinion on a few things, and they had some great points regarding a few armies, but I think the Zangor horde with the run charge and all the different interactions they can get. I don't know. I like them. Finished bubble wrapping and packing up 3 more silver tower boxes. Whoa! Man, I hope you're getting a slice from that store. You're selling all their product for them. Way to be. That's called being a brand ambassador, my friend. Just walk into the next game store, thick glasses, patrolman sunglasses on, be like, I'm going to make you famous. Let's see. So are you liking the new place? Oh, yes. Very much settled in. Actually, we were just talking about that yesterday. We were driving around and it's like, man, I freaking love it here. It's just our pace, I think. Over in Eastern Iowa. So yeah, we love it. Having a great time, meeting some really cool people. It was just one of those things that's really hard when you move during quarantine, because how do you get out and meet new people? It's just insane. So with things kind of laxing a little bit more in Iowa as we get more and more people vaccinated and stuff like that, and the laws start lessening up just a smidge, it's been really good. Let's see, so what do I need? I'm going to grab Celestra Gray. Here we go. Is a Har-Curon themed army a good choice for a new player? Well, that depends. If you're just talking rules, like you already own a bunch of the models, say from owning a Dark Elf army from before, I would say, yeah, why not? Just jump right in. If you're specifically asking, should I recommend this to a new player? The only reason I say no is because the rules are in Wrath of the Everchosen, and we don't really know the shelf life of those rules. You know, I mean, because it's technically a Cities of Sigmar. It's not even a Daughters of Cain thing that's in their book, to my understanding. That's my only hesitation. Plus, when it comes to new players, I'm of the mindset that, like, whatever is the easiest, go that way. And having an army with rules based on a supplement that we don't quite know how long it's going to be valid for tends to not excite me much. But then again, you know, it just depends. If it allows that player to use all the models that they want to use, go for it. I'll never say no. There's very few times where I will be like, this is a bad thing for a new player. That is pretty much reserved for, like, Skaven and... Honestly, if I'm honest, it might be one of the better ways to start Daughters of Cain now that I think about it, because it requires you to buy less, like dropping all the coin on just a whole bunch of Cauldron of Blood kits. So I guess there's that for it. Oh, sorry. Junius, thank you for correcting me. Hark Huron is from Broken Realms Marathi. I just got that confused. I just yesterday was reading through the Wrath of the Everchosen. Thank you. Oh, no. Okay. Let's see. I'm just looking through the chat, talking about D&D and that kind of stuff. No advice for a new dungeon master, but I will be in that hot seat pretty soon. Because I do want to start doing my own Soulbound campaign here. I will say I am very nervous, though. I understand. But one thing I can say that I have learned in the short time that I've been playing role-playing games is it is all about the group. Like, if you have a good group of players that are all fun, that's awesome. If you're, you know, it's your friends and you're all on the same page as to what you want. But, like, yeah, just making sure you're on the same page, right? Just having one guy, he just wants to ruin every scene by smashing the first thing he sees, and you're just like, well, you know, tell that person, hey, listen, try and tell a story. Let me do something. Don't forget, as a DM, you are also a player. It's a game for everyone, not just other people. Let's see. Doug, I'm about to start an Oryx army that has been heavily converted to Khorne, so I can use it as Blades of Khorne as well. What are your thoughts? Lore advice? No lore advice. That's all you, buddy. Don't make me do the work. That was a joke. So as far as my thoughts, I don't have a problem with it. You know, as long as what I would recommend when it comes to stuff like Blood Warriors or Blood Reavers, all that kind of stuff, just make sure that no matter what faction you're playing them as in that specific game, it is just very easy to tell which unit is supposed to be which. That's the only advice I can offer, really. because that's a mistake I see a lot of conversions like that make, where it's like, yeah, this looks like a great Khorne orc army. It looks like a, you know, I'm picking on yours as an example, but I've seen this with other, you know, army combinations. I'll make that clear. So in your case, it'd be like, oh, this is a great Khorne orc themed army, but it's not a good Khorne army with orcs, if you know what I mean. Like, the heroes are so important in the Khorne army that if you can't distinguish which one's which, you're gonna have a cranky opponent. Just straight up. So it might almost be worth it to have like different, you know, modeled heroes for each. I don't know what your plans were, that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's my only advice. Lore-wise, buddy, if you're gonna write it, you gotta make it happen. Savage Orc for Blood Reavers, Ard Boys for Blood Warriors. Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, it's a cool idea. Like I said, the only thing I would really caution on is just having, you know, very distinct heroes. Because I know that I as an opponent, I don't mind proxies, conversions, whatever. Do it to your heart's content. My thing is just, the burden's not on your opponent to have to figure out what each unit is kind of my point. Because you will go to events where someone's like, oh, it's pretty easy that this is like a war mammoth, and you look down at the table and it's like a Makrusha, and you're like, no, actually it's not. Let's see. Hey, 2+, are there any Seraphon characters besides Croak active in the lore? Not really, to be perfectly honest with you, and I'm just going to go ahead and say that I don't think that Croak is all that active in the lore, but he exists more so than any other Seraphon hero. And I don't know why they haven't. They had a great opportunity with that second book, which is a great book in terms of like competitive play and that kind of stuff. So I'm not quite sure why they didn't just slip in a few more heroes, but they chose not to. Let's see. Mini Wargaming YouTube has a really cool Orc to World Eaters conversion. Oh, there you go. They also have a guy, whenever they do Carriage and Overlords in their battle reports, they have a guy come in, their token KO player, as I call him, to come in, and he has a fully converted Orc boys into KO guys army. It's pretty cool. Where did I put the skin color? Give me one sec here. I lost a bunch of the paints I had out ready to go. Here we go. Where did I get the price for Cursed City? Based on the cost of Indominus, Crusade, and Kill Team box sets. Yeah, that's not the same thing as like a preview, but I understand what you're saying. For me, unless I see it written in, you know, I don't believe anything on the internet. It's probably easier to say it that way than anything else. Trust nothing. Give me just a second here. I gotta kind of take a deep breath to get into these little tight areas. Try not to totally like annihilate their dress that I worked really hard on. Doing good so far. Let's see. Trust nothing. Someone's been watching WandaVision. I actually have not seen a single episode of WandaVision. My thing is, let me ask this, okay, about WandaVision. Do you have to have watched the Marvel movies to be able to follow it? Because it seems like such an intriguing plot line. But, quite frankly, I tapped out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe back at Civil War. I was just like, this is getting unwieldy. No thanks. Let's see. Doug, yes, you do really. Okay, no, I'll pass. It's all good. Or what'll actually happen is that I'll watch it in 5 years and then want to talk about it, and everyone's going to be like, but that's so old. Why would we want to talk about that? Okay, let's grab. Belcher. All right, what are we doing next? Let's see. Need to grab her little belt. And then we can start filling in some of the armor. She'll come together pretty quick because I wanted her to be like very desaturated with the exception of her hair. So I think this will come together real fast. You do have to watch the movies to get WandaVision? Yeah, I don't know. You might want Infinity Wars Endgames, but after those 6 hours, you should be good. Oh my god. Okay, 2+ nothing really, so nothing really Seraphon happening at all? Do you think they might do something in Broken Realms? I sure hope so. We know they're not in Techless. Well, I mean, we know they at least don't get rules in Techless, and they kind of seem to be using Broken Realms as a way to get some rules updates in, so they're not there. They could still have a part in the story. Who am I to rule things out? That being said, I would love it, you know, because their whole thing is they're trying to stop chaos, like on the big level, right? Capital C chaos. And so, knowing now that there is a Broken Realms Be'lakor on the way that was just previewed recently, by previewed I mean they just mentioned that the book exists, I honestly would rather see them there. You know, taking on a threat that is kind of their faction's focus, right? Going straight to the heart, going straight to the big chaos bads. So, like, do I think we could see it in Broken Realms? Absolutely. That would actually be super cool if they had, like, a plot to try and, like, end Be'lakor. How long do you think the D&D adventure Infernal Machine... Oh, yeah, dude, yeah. You're asking specifics here. I don't know. Might be better off going to a D&D channel if you're looking for the host to help you out. Anyone in the community can help you. Let's see. So, let me grab my white dwarf here. Unless I totally took it out of the room, which I totally did. Instead, I will regale you with a story about my Soulbound character, because I haven't done a live show since I had him last. So, for a while, I was actually considering getting rid of my character that I was currently using for Soulbound, who is an Excelsior War Priest. And I was like, okay, between missions is a great time to like reset characters. My GM would take care of, he would become Vicar is my character's name. Anytime we encountered him in the wider world. And so I was like, okay, well, what do I want to do? And so I was like, well, I honestly want to do like a Fire Slayer, because I think Fire Slayers are some of the coolest heroes in Soulbound, to be honest with you, just with the way the runes work, where essentially you can kind of customize everything about your guy. But ultimately I decided, you know what? Let's stick with Vicar. So I decided to keep my Excelsior War Priest. And basically I just gave him all the upgrades he needed to actually like contribute in a meaningful way, which is really what he was missing. I think my mistake when I started was I went way too safe. I was like, okay, how simple beasts are to use in Soulbound. You basically just use their attack profile instead of yours, which is kind of funny. But yeah, and then gave him some new prayers that he knows, upgraded some of his abilities, his stats in devotion, that kind of stuff. So he's a badass now, I think. We'll see. The second I get punked in battle, that might change. But I like him nonetheless. But basically now what I did was I invested in making my Griffhound pretty good in battle. He's fairly good. I mean, he's at least better than my main character. So I got that. And then, what was I going to say? So I got that and then some basically party healing and defensive miracles. So now I can so Vicar will stand back, throw the Griffhound forward, and he will be buffing everybody else, which is exactly where I wanted it. So yeah, just finished working on my own rogue idol out of foam and drywall plaster. Thankfully it turned out way better than it sounded. No, I've seen, I remember seeing a ton of those awesome builds for rogue idols. It's a model that, I'll be honest, I got one off of Forgery World, and the second it got to me, I was like, why did I ever actually do that? I should have just made my own. Just picking out some of the metal details. Actually, a thought occurs. I'm gonna let her sit for just a hot second, and I'm gonna throw a wash of Nuln Oil on the Grot Boys, just so it's drying while I'm doing everything else. Again, efficient. Aha, my music was turned down way too low to hear it. You're right. This is my least favorite song in the world. Good call. I remember my plan was to get her body stat up so she could wear heavy armor. Oh yeah. Adrian Kirsch. 2+, what happened to the Infinity and other lore videos? I was really digging them. Got my interest in trying other games. Well, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I wanted to go full-time, and the interest wasn't there in total from other people. However, I will say, I don't know if anything will come of it, but the guys who do Wild West Exodus randomly reached out to me. I don't think they're going to reach out again. We'll see how that goes. So basically how it goes is this. Most of these companies, they don't want to pay for advertising space. They want to just send free product. But the thing is, I have a house and a wife and a car and a life. And so, if the videos themselves don't do well and the company doesn't want to support or anything like that, micro influencers, not a whole lot to be done. I'll do them like in my spare time when I can, but the truth is, I have established myself as the AOS guy, and I'm happy with that because it lets me do my Warcry stuff, which is my personal pet project. Yeah, they reached out to me, like, hey, we'd love to send you any product, and it's like, okay, well, here's my pricing sheet, and we can work out something custom just for you guys because you have a very specific thing you want to support. And it was just radio silence. I'm like, okay, well. And then with Corvus Belly, they're much of the same way. More than happy to send out product all day, night, but the second any kind of real support's needed, it's like, no, there's a bunch of hobbyists who just like having free stuff, and we'll just send it to them. All right. Do you know lo-fi music? It's peaceful and relaxing. Oh, absolutely. Yep. The thing is there's just not a ton of options that are free online. This is the COM playlist from the YouTube audio library. So that's why we do this. But pretty much every other second, my computer is playing lo-fi for sure. All right, we'll go through, pick these things out. Managed to snag Blood Frenzy on her. Oh, cool. Nice. Yeah, I am very excited to see what my characters can come up with next. I will say, though, one thing I didn't realize is that there are a ton of resources for Stormcast and Excelsior War Priests within the, what's it called, Champions of Order supplement that just came out. Like, I didn't, I read it. Obviously, I did a review of it. But when I was doing that review, I was mostly looking at it from the sense of, how do I say this? Like as a self-contained thing. Like, oh, okay, here are the archetypes that are in the book, and here's the abilities they get to have, that kind of stuff. But the truth is like those work for literally any hero. And so, once I kind of got that through my skull, because another group member pointed it out to me, I was like, oh yeah, I can use miracles from here. I can use abilities from here instead of the core book. The core book ones are fine, but the Sigmar specific miracles, in my opinion, are kind of meh in the core book. But in the I keep wanting to say Tome of Champions. It's Champions of Order, in that they're a little more useful, I'll be honest. D+, have you ever seen anyone rage about a loss at the store and just take the game way too seriously? Far too often. Yes, I have seen that. I've seen a store owner ask a guy to leave because he was becoming, we'll say, belligerent. What else? I think that's mainly it. Yeah, that was the worst one. He was just yelling at his opponent and just being super scoffy. And then when a customer was looking, so like basically it was 40K. And so when a customer was looking at like 40K stuff, just, minding their own business, he walked up and was like, just so you know, this game's a bunch of bullshit. Don't buy it. And then the store owner was like, no, you don't tell people not to buy stuff at my store. Get the hell out. and he was all mad because basically his entire army got shot off the board turn 1. That'll do it. I did also meet this last weekend a gentleman who he was playing AOS, but had nothing but complaints about it. And that's also a type of personality I don't understand. So basically, I met all these new guys at a gaming store that I just recently started going to up in Cedar Rapids. And they were, I just want to say this very clearly up front, they were all super nice. There was nobody who was like you were describing, rage quitty. But he was very salty. Basically what happened there was... what happened to him? So he started to say, like, you know, man, I just, you know, I got an AOS because I love the models and I love narrative play, and I really can't stand when people come in and, you know, all they want to do is crush face. It's why I stopped playing 40k. And I was like, oh, dude, I'm so with you, 110%. Like, that's the truth for me too. And honestly, shooting armies obviously do exist in AOS, but I feel like it's very different kinds of shooting than it is in 40k. Whereas I feel like, yeah, AOS, like, you know, because I feel like no faction has quite enough guns to fully delete an army, like a full army, in one turn. Like, Stormcast can come down and they'll clean your clock by deleting all your heroes. But I mean, like, literally the entire army. Like in 40k, you can cripple someone to the point where they might as well just they've already functionally packed up all their models. And that's a bit intense for me. And you know, it just is what it is. But so there was that, and so I was like, oh yeah, I'm totally on board. He's like, yeah, like the guy I was just playing against, who also was like sitting maybe 10 feet away. And I was like, well, what happened there? He's like, yeah, he brought 2 Bloodthirsters. And I kind of just let that sit in the air for a hot second, and I was like, okay. And he's like, anytime I see any of those big models, you know, I have nothing I can do against them, and I would just rather give up and walk away. I was like, well, you're starting to lose me, because Bloodthirsters are far from the hardest thing to deal with in this game. I'm just going to throw that out there. You know what I mean? Like, I was trying to relate to the guy. I was like, oh yeah, we're saying the same things. We love narrative. And I was like, well, okay, like, you know, and then I was like, okay, maybe he doesn't, you know, maybe he struggles to kind of understand, like, every faction has options and that kind of stuff. I was like, okay. And I was like, okay, well, you know, what armies do you have? And he was like, oh yeah, I have Stormcast and I have Skaven and I have all these things. I was like, okay, so all you need to do, you know, assuming it's not Scarbrand, you just need to plink some wounds off of them, and then they're really not that scary. They're just big wound sinks at that point. And I kept trying to explain this to him. But here's the thing. The more I explained to him, you know, solutions for this problem that he's having with big monsters, it kept saying, like, well, that's just not like how I like to build lists. For me, I like to build with just a bunch of small infantry. I'm like, I understand. That's totally cool. That's generally what I am too. But like, you need to understand that that's not your opponent being a power gamer. 2 Bloodthirsters isn't really all that scary. You know, I mean, I say all that scary. In light of all the things that could be across you from the table, it's not. He said, but, you know, that's a self-limitation, right? That's like me saying I only like to play, you know, X units in Ironjaws, which is a thing that I do. I only like to play certain units. That's why I only buy certain models that I like. But I also understand that that comes with its own limitations. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to do as well as people who are here to win the game because I have this self-imposed limitation in effect. And even if the other person is narrative, I'm like, he's like, yeah, I mean, I can't believe, like, they just don't even want to tell the story, because, like, when is there ever 2 Bloodthirsters? I was like, you know, there's a narrative battalion with 3 Bloodthirsters in the book. He didn't want to hear it, so I was like, I don't know what to tell you, dude. Kind of seems like you have a very specific vision of what is quote unquote fun in Warhammer, and you're just setting yourself up to be unhappy. And I don't know what to tell you with that one. Like, the second you start making other people feel bad for, you know, I mean, because honestly, the way that I say it is like, we're all here to play with our toys. The second you make someone feel bad about using theirs, we got problems. And I'm just thinking, like, he kept talking about how amazing it was to use infantry models. I'm like, dude, I'm just like having like PTSD flashbacks to when Jack would put, you know, 6 long strikes on the table. Those are infantry models. They'll do a hell of a lot more work than 2 Bloodthirsters. Oh, sorry, I was rambling on my story and I got behind the chat here. 1 second here. Let me try to catch up while stuff's drying. Had a bunch of 40k players be that way? Yeah. Haven't actually had any AOS players be super ragey. I find on the whole, the amount of people who are just here for the cool models is higher in AOS. I don't know why that is. Because 40k has some killer models, but I just find in general that, I don't know, maybe it's battalions that help us kind of like feed in a narrative direction. I don't know. That's a great question. Kenzie, I've gotten way too broken up over games of 40k. I always feel like I get lapped by all the other folks in town who know more than me. I don't get mad at others, more so at myself. That's kind of where I fall, honestly. I've never gotten ragey at anybody else. I think the only time that I have gotten bitter was the last Seraphon battle tome. And, you know, I'm so thankful that Jack gave me a heads up about this player. Basically, you know, the guy was playing to win the tournament, and there's nothing wrong with that. He was perfectly nice, but it was like an all, is it Pterodon or Raptor sort, whatever the flying, you know, skink units are. It was just spammed to an oblivion level, and so he just deleted my army. And the game was over round 1. That was basically it, because they had that old rule where they could like pop in within 3 inches, and it was just an old holdover from the first battle tome like ever written, kind of a thing. And then they fixed that, so it's not quite the same, but that was a real rough game where I was just like, I didn't even get to play, you know. That's my thing. That was the only game where I was like, I am actively frustrated by this. But you know what? In 1 turn it was over, and then I went and got a beer. And isn't that the reason we're really here? Not for anyone who's underage. Kenzie, I don't know how old you are. I'm painting some black, red, and bronze Blood Warriors. Was wondering if you had any ideas what to paint their trousers. Maybe brown or gray. So you're doing red, bronze, and black. I would probably go with a dark brown, to be honest with you. Just because you want it to be something that looks different than the armor, in my opinion. Someone might have a better opinion. But I still feel like you want a dark color because you don't want to draw attention away from the immaculate godlike armor. So that would be my suggestion for you. Someone asked what model I'm painting. This is the Mistweaver Sai, a hero that came out with Warhammer Quest Silver Tower, and we never saw her again. Right? I don't think she's available. Is she available for sale separately? Now I don't know. I'm thinking about it. Because War Priest is, but he also had, I think, more of a place. Because she came out before there was like any info on elves. It was just sad seasons all around for them. Okay. Joshua, hey Doug, I was just wondering, I was just watching some of your lore videos. What issue White Dwarf was that vampire lore in? That was in, let me get it for you. I got it right here on the side. Here we go. Aristocracy of the Night returns. That was the White Dwarf 255 in April. So there you are, my friend. Rage Cage, I love it, by the way. Question, we're finally starting to do some AOS games coming out this year, like Stormground. We're starting to get some AOS games, sorry. Can we look forward to you reviewing or making a few videos on them? Absolutely. Yeah, the only reason I didn't do... Because they have a few 40k app games right now. Like, there is actually a Silver Tower game. It plays nothing like the tabletop game. It's just more of like a hero hammer smash thing. It's fun. I still play it. It's, you know, a cool little background game, but it's not Silver Tower. But yeah, absolutely. Good for my Vulpus Pink. Actually, a good YouTuber would actually reach out to those guys and be like, hey, listen, let me promote your game for you. I should do that. Treat them like I do everyone else when I walk into a game store. Hello, friends, perhaps you've heard of me. And everyone just kind of stares blankly at me. I don't actually do that. I'm not a douche. I'm still grounded enough to assume that nobody cares. 2+, was he a Beast of Chaos player? Because then I can understand. No, I think he brought slaves to darkness that time. So here's what I'll say about that guy I was telling the story about. Honestly, I asked a ton of questions. I was there for 30 minutes with him. It had nothing to do with his army. It was all specifically, he has a very specific vision of what he thinks these games should look like. And, you know, because he listed off 3 or 4 factions that he owns, and I was going through all the options that they have, because I've played dang near all these armies that I did play every single one that he listed. And I was just listing off all kinds of options for him, and nothing was good enough. So I was just like, you know what? Not that nothing was good enough. Nothing was what he was willing to try. And I was just like, okay, well, it became clear at a certain point, like this is a you thing, not a game balance thing, not a power gamer thing, that kind of stuff. So I left out some details to abbreviate it, but yeah, that's essentially it. I just kind of kept going back and forth trying to help him. You know, that's all you can do. Because, you know, I don't even play this store very much. I just discovered it, but what you don't want is like some guy being super salty and then kind of ruining the chances of getting other people in because of his personal saltiness. And so I was just trying to address that, kind of maybe nip it in the bud, but it's just like, you're just an unhappy dude. Nothing in this game is going to make you a happy person. Two Bloodthirsters, you say? What about 4 Keepers of Secrets? Exactly. Okay, I am sorry, friends. I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead. If I missed your question, just go ahead and ask it again. I apologize. I'm so far behind in the chat that I'm just going to go ahead and skip, because there's other conversations happening with y'all helping each other out, which I appreciate. I love seeing that, so don't stop. What was the question here? Hey Doug, did you paint your Zangor already? If not, then how are you planning on painting their skin? Absolutely. I'm actually going to do the exact way they say in the Battle Tome, which is you take is it a 4-to-1 thin-downed version of Ultramarine's blue contrast paint. And honestly, that does a majority of the work, and then you just paint some grays on top of that to really make it pop. So now I'm using a Citadel air paint that I got by mistake a long time ago to throw some purple on here. I have a feeling when I get Jess to play this game, she is going to want to use this gal. She loves purple. I'm just working in some nice purple tones. No, I totally haven't planned this, babe. What are you talking about? I will say I do love this model. This is a really cool one. I think I might have to do something else with this leg though, because so she has a white gown on basically, and then what is essentially like, I don't know, spandex, Spanx, I don't know, something underneath. And I just the color doesn't pop differently enough. She kind of looks like she's fading into her own pants, which is weird. Yes, you can have 4 behemoths. There are ways to do that thing. Okay. We got that, and I think all we've left is that skull. She has like a skull, bird skull thing as a belt buckle, which is quite possibly the most Texan thing I've ever seen in a model. Let's see. I had skeleton horde here a second ago. Can I have an army consisting only of Bloodthirsters? As far as I know, that is not yet a possibility. You would need at least 3 Bloodletters, right? Your battle line choices, and then beyond that, I do believe Bloodthirsters are behemoths, so there's behemoth limits. I can't remember all the sub-factions, to be honest, if there's one that lets you take more than normal. But I get the sense no. Fading in No Pants is the name of my indie alt core band. I like it. Okay, so what do we need to do next? She's almost done. I'm pretty much going to call these little garrote guys done, mainly because I'm pretty sure they're going to die instantly the second they touch the table. For her, we need to do the white highlights, and I'm going to throw on a couple. Basically, I have a pre-mixed, diluted like half and half of Null Oil and Lamia Medium. So I'm going to throw that pretty much everywhere just because it helps kind of bring the tones together just a smidge, and then we'll pick out her flesh. So let me grab those colors here. So we need Ulthuan Gray. That's not that. Ulthuan Gray, White Scar. We need skin colors. I'm actually going to go Kislev Flesh. I want her to have very, very light, fair skin. She's the Liv Tyler of our little Fellowship of the Ring here. Thanks for calming down lately. Saw him around to hobby some. Even got back into watching anime. There you go. Sweet. What greater way to celebrate the world healing than anime? Hello, got here because of Vermintide 2. Wondered about Warhammer lore and found Tuff's awesome lore vids. Keep it up, dude. Oh, buddy, thank you so much. That's so kind of you to say. Can I ask, did you find me because of I was playing Vermintide 2, or like you were into Vermintide 2 and looked into Warhammer stuff and it kind of sent you down a rabbit hole that led you here? I'm just always curious to know how people hear about us, you know? We got a wonderful and very encouraging community here, and people are just awesome. That's one thing. My in-laws are very sweet and generally supportive. My mother-in-law is incredibly supportive. Father-in-law, I don't think he fully understands what I do, but point I was making is that this is an incredibly cool community with very supportive people, and yeah. 2+, do you have a Dark Oath War Queen? I don't on me, but I do want to get one like already anyway, so I am more than happy to paint one up for you, like for use in our game or whatever. It was already on my to-do list. Looked into Warhammer stuff and found your lore vids. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for stopping in and commenting, man. These are obviously not, you know, my typical kinds of content, but I'm excited. If you're just finding us and you haven't followed for too long, essentially there's a somewhere between a miniatures game and a board game called Warhammer Quest that's coming out. This, what I'm painting right now, is models from an old version of it. And the ultimate goal here is pretty soon, once these guys are painted, I'm going to start playing games of it live. Not live necessarily, because it'll kind of depend on the players, but I'm going to play games with it with real people over online. I'll be like the guy who's controlling all the models and that kind of stuff, and then guests will come and act out the characters. And then we'll turn it into little shows. So if you are into Warhammer goodness, stick around. You can watch me stumble and be incredibly awkward sometimes. That's always fun for people to watch. And yeah. Let's see. Sweet when you inevitably get rid of it. Y'all know me too well. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just reading through the comments, trying to pick out which ones are for me. Sorry. Anyone have any good ideas to base my Khorne army? I'll be honest with you, pick your favorite realm and a texture paint that goes along with it, because honestly, that's my favorite way to base things. I did the full fancy bases where I like custom rolled each one out of green stuff, and it broke my soul every time I wanted to add a new unit or just try something. It was a bit too much for me, so yeah, nah. Yeah, nah, yeah. Yeah, just I think for myself in particular, just simpler is just better. The lava-based technical is great. Mordant Earth. Yes, it is great. It requires, I'm just going to throw this out there, a metric ton of that stuff to get the crackles just right. For me anyway, it did. because that's actually how I painted some of the effects on my Hoth bases for Star Wars Legion. Was doing that exact thing. Like, I put Mordant Earth down, and then I primed it to get it white. So then I wanted like crackling glacier kind of stuff. And oh, I just totally put the wrong color in there. I definitely just threw Hulthwan Gray on the skin instead of the flesh color. That's okay. We'll fix that up. Nice thing about model painting, there's nothing you can't fix. If only everything else in life was like that. Here we go. I paint all my bases the exact same. Castellan green all around. Goblin green is just too bright. There you go. Doug, any tips on what to do with bases that are Gur but bloody? Gur but bloody. You know, so when I did Gur bases for my Iron Jaws, like forever ago, basically what I did was I took the, what's it called? The Dunes color, where it's kind of like a light tan texture paint. I put that on there, and then did a wash with Cassandor yellow, so it kind of gave it that yellow tint that you see like on the cover art for the War Clans book, or at least the old War Clans book. So that's what it was. So it had that like nice kind of yellow earth type thing, and then I bet if you splattered blood all over, like not all over that, but in some fair quantity, I think that would actually look pretty good. Because the whole thing, the reason I say it'll look pretty good is because the blood would then, the color of it would pop off of the base, so you would see both. Sometimes, like if you see lava bases where someone goes too dark on the magma red, it's not bright enough to pop through the other basing things, and so it doesn't look quite right. Yeah. Hope that makes sense. Hope that gibberish turned out for you. Let's see, what else next? Now the white. Let's see, any, yep, answered that one, okay. Teal. That does things like, oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't understand much about color theory. I just know that when I put something on the model and it doesn't look right, I'm like, that doesn't look right, and I just gotta go back to the drawing board. But that's one that I did learn. It's just like, you know, your stuff's gotta pop, because if it all kind of bleeds together, then it looks sad. I actually learned that from a 40K podcast. Independent Characters, a wonderful podcast. If you basically want to hear like what I would consider to be the Doug of 40K, those guys, they're a little bit older, so they have different perspectives because they've been around for a lot longer in the hobby. But very cool guys. I've enjoyed their show for a long time. They're on a bit of a hiatus right now just because of a bunch of stuff going on in the world, but in their personal lives. But yeah, love it. He was talking about a Tyranid army that the main host had, and he ultimately sold it. And basically the reason he sold it is because I got to the end of it, I painted it all up, and then I realized I hated looking at it. And so live on air, they were basically like critiquing it, trying to figure out what didn't look right, and basically he had these kind of cool, like dark greens Tyranids that looked super rad. But he put them on what he thought would be like a cool swamp base. So the idea was they kind of, you know, adapted to this swampland thing, and that's why they look the way they do. But the problem is they didn't pop off the base. So like, since the colors were the exact same, it didn't look right because they kind of just blended right in, which can be a cool thematic effect. But when it comes to like physically holding a tabletop miniature that doesn't look different than its base, it doesn't quite pan out. Sweet, she's coming along. Green Stuff's Liquid Frost. What the heck is a Liquid Frost? That sounds red. Okay, so it's kind of like a clear acrylic. I dig it. I do. Yeah, it's cool. Spezia, only in for a lunch break. Thank you so much, buddy. That means the world to me. Yeah, you put it on and it crystallizes to look like frost. That's so sweet. I miss rank and file battles. I feel like the movement of blocks of troops really suck me into the game. I just don't like how the movement for AOS and 40k. But I do love the lore and the models. You know, I was actually having a discussion about this at my local store, where some guy was expressing pretty much the exact same things. And what I had said to him was like, well, why don't you try playing AOS on rank and flank bases and see how you like it? And you're like, why would I do that? It's like, because the weapons all have ranges. You know what I mean? Like, if your spearmen still have a 2-inch range, even if they're on a base and they're all clumped together, there's no templates, so that actually, I think, makes moving on movement trays smarter than it was back in fantasy battles, for sure. And I think that that's still a super cool way to play the game. Again, like, it's just, I think it's totally, it totally works, and honestly, there's no reason why you couldn't. Here we go. Just added some shadow to kind of break the mist that's cloying from her dress and her herself. I'm actually feeling really good about this model. I like this. Do you know if 2 people and a DM is enough to play D&D? Also, do you know where to find people to play D&D with? Nope. Sorry. As far as 2 people, I believe it is. I mean, my understanding of role-playing games is you're just however many people it takes to build a story together. Boom. Unless there's something extremely specific you wanted to do that would require more characters. You know, I don't like her little the tassel she's got hanging off. I tried doing like an air paint, but it kind of comes off looking like contrast where it's kind of blotchy. So let's get some actual purple. I think that would look good. Give me 1 sec here. Let me just dry this up just a smidge. Two isn't ideal, but possible. Okay. I mean, yeah, because you would want more players to exhibit player agency, right? You want choices to be made and, I don't know, tension and that kind of stuff, for sure. I can see that. Okay, here we go. Nice deep purple. Gotta make our Mistweaver look like she's royal. Putting the Q in Quang. I think Roll20 also has a forum where you can find games or something like that. I don't know for sure, but... And, you know, here's my thing with painting. At a certain point, you just have to, like, even just throw some black on the base, because you need to... For me, in my eyes anyway... I get confused when I look at this. I'm like, man, there's too much white, but there's not. It's actually a bunch of it comes from the base. So if I cover that up, I realize, oh, she actually looks almost perfect. We're almost there. I just need to do a quick wash and pick out some very fine highlights on I don't know what to call them, tassels. They're not tassels, they're bigger than that, but whatever she got hanging off the back of her. But yeah, sweet. I like that. Actually, I'm gonna throw a tinge of purple. Let's do that. A splash, if you will. Roll20's forms are pretty good. Okay, yeah, that's what I've heard. But like, that's not an official 2+ Tough endorsement. I don't know anything about that site, other than that's where we do our Soulbound games. But I'm just working a little bit of purple over some of the misty areas, the fog that she's bringing with her, just to kind of add a little bit of interest. But I'll have it get progressively more dark as she fades away. I'll be honest, now that I'm painting this, I kind of want to do a whole army in this scheme. Okay, what else? Yeah, really just waiting for that little tassel thing to dry, but that's not gonna slow us down. Do it, Doug. You know you want to. Want to do what? Paint a whole army like this with the Mistweaver? Look. Oh, also, this here, that's my Griffhound. His name is Preacher. He goes with my Excelsior War Priest. Get rid of all these little grotlins. And because of a request from the chat, let's bust out the Zangor. Because I like to alternate between heroes and monsters, we'll finish this hero, we'll do those, and then we'll do... Who's this guy? We'll do my War Priest next. My boy. What's the bird doggy's name? Preacher. Okay, so let's find that blue. There we go, Ultramarines blue. And we'll grab one of these old bottles from good old Army Painter. So we'll do this off screen just so I don't have to do it on my painting desk, but I'm going to basically do 1 part Ultramarines blue to basically 4 parts contrast medium. Okay, there's that. Go ahead and finish this bottle off real quick. Cool. Feels satisfying when you can toss the thing of paint. Like you're like, oh yeah, I used it all. I didn't spill any of it. I just straight used this pot. There we go. Do this, throw the lid back on, we'll give it a good shake. Local Facebook group is another good resource. Expect Roll20. Yeah, honestly, a lot of game stores have like, I only know this because the game stores in Seattle had it, the ones here do it, where they'll have like a bulletin board basically, where you can be like, hey, I'm looking for a game. And people can reach out to you based on that. Vicar and Preacher, friends till the end, that's us. This still looks pretty intense. Oh no, it's thin, okay. I was like, I don't know about this. Yep. It does exactly what it said it would. I like it. So, okay, you endorsed by Doug, the Battled Home Zinch paint method is pretty good. And then everything from there is just kind of building up the grays. But this is your light blue like hue that the skin will have. And we get to be really sloppy with it because we're going to go back over all of this to clean up the armor and stuff later. Which is always nice. It's always nice when you're just like, don't have to care about being near edges and stuff. Just like, go wild. Have fun with this one. The ease of this also does make me want to double down on that Zinch army idea. I'll tell you what. For a second there this week, I was like really considering doing Deep King, which is just an army I just hadn't really, it's not been on my radar, but I'm looking for something that's like a semi-reliable tournament army. You know, it's got one shtick, It annoys Jack, so that's a bonus. Question, what do you think of Middle-earth battle game? I love the rules and lore, but I think the models and books lean too much on... Oh, they lean too much on replicating the films. You know, so I love the rule set. I actually read through it. To me, it's a really good balance of like classic war games, like, you know, when fantasy battles and all that kind of stuff was really working. It's got that nice fat core rule book with all the rules and stuff in it. I like it. I found that finding games was very difficult. And as far as the models go, I actually had the Battle at Pelennor Fields one, and the second I had them in my hands, I was like, I do not like these models. I don't know what else to say. I just did not specifically care for them. And so I was like, okay, back to the drawing board. If I was ever going to get into this game, what actual faction would I want? You know, and like that's based on models alone and that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of in limbo with it because, again, there's one local player, but he's basically resigned to self-quarantining because of health reasons. Pretty much until next year, so I was like, I'm not in a rush to paint an army up. But I do like the rule system, and I will say that when I went to Nova, which is a big convention for wargaming over in Virginia, the Lord of the Rings tables were by far the best tables, like second to none. There's nothing else. The other tables were great. The Necromunda tables were pretty freaking cool, but Lord of the Rings took the cake. They had like a full Helm's Deep wall and these incredible fields that like it looked like a model. It looked like one of those like model railway guys who build like, you know, very detailed landscapes specifically, right? Not as terrain or not as bases, but like I just build mountains. It's what I do. Those kinds of dudes built it, and it was just incredible. So it's definitely on my radar. The thing is, I'm not a Tolkien guy. I'm just not. I don't know. That's why, you know, when AOS dropped and everyone was like, this seems like a dumb way to just move away from Tolkien, I was like, good. Forgot does... yes, I think they do. Am I the only one who thinks that they have less experienced designers work on Lord of the Rings? I mean... I don't know if I'll go that far. Because, I mean, honestly, some of them, like, a good majority of the Lord of the Rings models are just old. Like, you know, Games Workshop's made huge strides in not only the sculpting of models, but like the literal production value of them. And I think, as is my personal opinion, I just don't think they want to invest the same level of production and that kind of stuff into new stuff for Lord of the Rings as they do for something like, say, 40K or AOS. And so, you know, they don't own the property. They just lease it, essentially. And so it doesn't surprise me that they don't get quite as much focus. But every time I bring up Lord of the Rings, it tends to be a controversial moment because people are like, what? See you later, buddy. Okay. So we got just this left on the skin, and then I should be able to go back and finish off the Mistweaver. I think we'll call it a day. Today's plans include getting a bird feeder to entertain my cat for hours, and that's about it. He's working on notes. Next week we have a lore for Sigvald the Magnificent, Glutos Orxalion, the Lord of Gluttony, who I said earlier, after reading his story, I like him a lot more than I thought I would. And he's probably the only thing that would tempt me to ever do a Slaanesh army. Let's see. Bird feeders. Sigvald, the sexy, and Glutos, the thick. Exactly. He's a thick boy. I rank him up there, like, next to the Glotkin with tragic backstories. Which I like. I like that in a villain, to be honest with you. Like, you know, I know that there's a lot of pushback on, like, you know, not all villains need to be relatable. And I would agree with that. They don't need to be. They don't be relatable. No, they don't need to be, like, I don't need to pity them. But there's a cool little, like, tragedy when you're just like, man, it wasn't supposed to be this way. Or, like, someone turned out evil due to forces far beyond their control or understanding. It doesn't excuse anything. Like, I think that's kind of the fallacy. Like, well, if I sympathize with the villain, then it kind of loses some of that, you know, bite to why they do what they do. It's like, no, I don't think that's true. You could have been a victim when you were younger, and then turn into the monster when you get older, and you're still both a victim and a monster. And that's exactly like, you know, the Glotkin story where they had no idea. Basically, their mom conscripted them to chaos before they were even born. You're just like, well, they didn't have a chance. What's your opinion on bringing back old characters like Sigvald into AOS? Does the lore support it? Yeah, I mean, he has his reasons. Actually, he has a super cool reason. And if I'm going to pick my favorite reason for a character to come back from the old world, it is Sigvald. Because honestly, it had nothing to do with Slaanesh, and that's what makes it so fun. You know, normally when we see these kinds of like stories where they bring a character back, it's always like, oh yeah, and that Chaos God really liked this person, and so, you know, immortality, which, you know, is totally within the Chaos God's power to give. That's kind of what the Glotkin was. It's just like, yeah, I just like him, says Nurgle, and that's basically the whole plot as to how they made it. But Sigvald's got a special story that involves another god who is not chaos oriented. There's your teaser. And I enjoyed that quite a bit. But, you know, on the whole, I'll be honest, I don't particularly care for when they bring back old characters, mainly because, like, I understand that a lot of that appeals to nostalgia. You know, you got a bunch of gamers who really loved those things back in the day, and so they're kind of wringing them back in. Honestly, I don't really much care for that, and that's just because I wasn't there for it. You know, they're they introduced a whole host of new awesome characters that they just never did anything with. Like, when's the last time we had some Hamilcar? Or, I mean, Gardas got a model, but Gardas has been around since literally day one. He was in the first book. Why are we just now getting the Gardas model? The Vandus model was just the Lord Celestant on Dracoth for longer than he's been Vandus. I need like one more drop of this stuff. So I don't know. But I don't know. So as much as I would love for them to focus on, you know, new characters, new stories, I also understand, you know, nostalgia is a powerful money maker, and they would be remiss to sit on it. You know what I mean? Like just let it sit there and do nothing for them. I'm like, no, I mean, I get it. I don't mind it with. I feel like characters like Sigvald are better to do this with than characters like Gotrek, if I'm honest with you, because Sigvald, he had one novel about him and he was mentioned in Chaos books, so he's like a fan favorite, but really people who know Chaos stuff would know him the most, kind of a thing, where he's like a niche iota of Warhammer Fantasy battles pulled forward and reimagined, and I like that. But I feel like Gotrek, for example, has so many novels about him and so much, quite frankly, baggage that I'm like, I don't want him, because when you bring him forward, he brings all that with him. You know what I mean? And so, I don't know. That's the one where I'm like, I just don't. Why do we have to bring him up? Or, I mean, I don't know. I'm not even opposed to Gotrek. I'm really not. But it's cool to see a named character that's not Hammers of Sigmar. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's honestly, I was surprised they went with Gardas, you know, of all the different characters they could make. I was really surprised they went with him. So, you know, he's cool. Korgus Kull, after reading the Red Feast, I kind of want to add Khorne to my Chaos army. Oh yeah, do that. Do that thing you said. You want to go to there. Yeah, I thoroughly... Red Feast was a really interesting book where it's like... If I step back and look at it as a whole, I enjoyed the heck out of it. But in the moment as I was reading it, I feel like... It kind of felt like the first Transformers movie, where it's like, let's be honest, when we bought our movie tickets, we really just wanted to see the last 20 minutes, right? Of just like robots beating the ever-loving F out of each other in a downtown city. You got lasers firing off. You got Shia LaBeouf screaming. It's like, what else could you want, right? That's the cost of entry, is that movie ticket. I feel like the Red Feast did something similar, where it's like, you know, the book was good. I enjoyed seeing like the pre Age of Chaos, like politics of all the different tribes and stuff. But I was just really there for that last 15 minutes or so. The last like chapter or two. Like, oh yeah. Now we're cooking with gas. So I guess pacing is kind of my only critique with that one. And pacing's important. It's what can be what makes a good book versus a mediocre one. Kenzie, yes, it's still up there. The review we did. All right, I'm calling her done. I'm calling the Zangor started. These guys are going to go together so quick. Because there's really not much to them. It's just skin, the armor, which there's a little bit of like, not lattice, what am I looking for? Like where there's like the edge of the armor, that kind of stuff. And then his horns. That's really all there is to him. This is good stuff. So, can you recommend another Chaos novel? Because so far they've been hit or miss for me. Ooh, another Chaos model. I like Scourge of Fate. You know, I'm terrible at their names. Let me pull up. Let's see. Oh, can you tell me how to get... Oh, how do I get Astro Granite to dry faster? Get a hairdryer. For real. Let's see. Black Library, that's where I was going. My goodness, my brain is all kinds of fried today. Oh, man. I had the worst migraine yesterday, and so I'm still just kind of like woozy with it. Good Chaos novels. Personally, I enjoy the Call of Archaon series. It's a collection of short stories, but together they actually tell the story of how Archaon chooses champions to be his Vanguard. So there's a champion story for each of the various Chaos gods. Like there's one Nurgle guy, there's a Khorne guy, and they're all short story snippets, but they interact with each other. And ultimately, from that pool of champions is how Archaon chooses the next Vanguard. And so I think that was a really, really compelling story. At least that's what I wanted to hear. If you want Chaos stuff, I do recommend the first Warcry book. It's short stories about the various warbands. They're all set in the 8 Points, which is the home of Chaos in the realms. So Joshua, this is for you. So yeah, Warcry anthology. I'm just looking at their roster of ones that I'm reading through. The Red Feast was good. That was a Khorne. That was the birth of the Bloodbound, essentially, and how Khorne entered into the realm of Akshi. Good Chaos novels. Scourge of Fate, I already mentioned that one. Oh, War Queen is a short story. It's a novella, so it's a little bit longer, but it's a great... I thought it was a really fun story. Which it shows like a Chaos, slightly undivided warband. I don't know. That one was super rad, actually. Let's see. Basically, the War Queen gets captured and put into a gladiatorial pit, and basically becomes fist bump bros with a Stormcast, and it just kind of like kept going. You're like, holy crap, this is freaking dope. Those are the ones that I would definitely start you with. Yeah, I'll leave it there for right now. I should really start a video series where I just take a faction and be like, these are the books that you should read for it. But that would require like an immense amount of reading, so I could tell them very specifically, oh yes, this is a book you want to read, kind of a thing. Hey Doug, did you read the new lore bits about the Cursed City? No, I have not. I've been so slammed this week. I know there's a bunch of those little short stories, and I want to get back into covering them. Let's see. Method of Madness. Yeah, I think those are the ones that I would recommend to you right now. I mean, they sell a bunch of those short story collections separately, so, you know, I don't think looking at the quick read section is necessarily worth it. For me, generally speaking, the anthologies of like the Warcry stories and that kind of stuff, they tend to be worth the money of all of them together. So, anyway, all right, friends, I'm gonna go ahead and hop off for the day and get moving. And well, we're cracking through these guys because honestly, what do we have left? Let's see. Actually, I have few enough models that I might just have them sitting out here for me to easily reference. We'll throw her in the box because she's all done. And I am actually not going to paint the Griffhound from this set. And I'll show you why. Unless I need his specific base size for the game, which I should double check. But this is the Griffhound they give you. This is an actual Griffhound. So I'm not gonna say that like size matters, but I'm gonna say size matters in this context. So I don't care much for the small Griffhound, but here we have our Gaunt Summoner, War Priest, Ogroid Thaumaturge, the Tenebral Shard. This is our Shadow Elf hero, Dark Oath War Chieftain. And then beyond the Zangor for enemies, it's just there's 2 Skaven, and they're identical because he basically like has like a mirror image and you don't know which one is the real one, which I thought was a clever way to be like, hey, we have 2 of the same Skaven. And then a whole bunch of little familiar guys, and these I'm just gonna quick contrast hammer these guys, so these won't take hardly any seconds at all. Just because, I mean, they're almost just tokens in the game rather than actual models. But yeah. I love the baby Griffhound. Oh my gosh. Let's see. So anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and call it. So thank you all so much for hanging out with me. And I will catch you tomorrow for While You're Reforging, where we do the actual show, where we go through the news for the week and the stories and that kind of stuff. And then after that, you know, after the main show is done, then I'll probably paint a little bit more just to hang out with guys. But yeah, I'm really excited about this Ogroid. I know he's not the best in the game, but by golly, he's one of my faves. So anyway, friends, thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will catch you next time. Happy wargaming.